Chapter 75 of Lorna Doone. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Daisy 55. Lorna Doone by Aura D. Blackmore. Chapter 75. Life and Lorna Come Again. When the little boy came back with the bluebells, which he had managed to find, as children always do find flowers, when older eyes see none, the only sign of his father left was a dark brown bubble upon a newly formed patch of blackness. But to the centre of its pulpy gorge the greedy slough was heaving, and sullenly grinding its weltering jaws among the flags and the sedges. With pain and ache, both of mind and body, and shame at my own fury, I heavily mounted my horse again, and looked down at the innocent Ensie. Would this playful, loving child grow up like his cruel father, and end a godless life of hatred with a death of violence? He lifted his noble forehead towards me, as if to answer, "Nay, I will not." But the words he spoke were these: "Don," for he could never say John, "oh, Don, I am so glad that nasty, naughty man is gone away. Take me home, Don, take me home." It has been said of the wicked, not even their own children love them. And I could easily believe that Carver Doone's cold-hearted ways had scared from him even his favourite child. No man would I call truly wicked, unless his heart be cold. It hurt me more than I can tell, even through all other grief, to take into my arms the child of the man just slain by me. The feeling was a foolish one, and a wrong one, as the thing has been, for I would fain have saved that man, after he was conquered. Nevertheless my arms went coldly round that little fellow, neither would they have gone at all, if there had been any help for it. But I could not leave him there, till some one else might fetch him, on account of the cruel slough, and the ravens which had come hovering over the dead horse. Neither could I, with my wound, tie him on my horse and walk. For now I had spent a great deal of blood, and was rather faint and weary. And it was lucky for me that the Kitchum had lost spirit, like his master, and went home as mildly as a lamb. For when he came towards the farm, I seemed to be riding in a dream almost, and the voices both of man and woman, who had hurried forth upon my track, as they met me, seemed to wander from a distant muffling cloud. Only the thought of Lorna's death, like a heavy knell, was tolling in the belfry of my brain. Then we came to the stable door. I rather fell from my horse than got off, and John Fry, with a look of wonder, took Kitchum's head, and led him in. Into the old farmhouse I tottered, like a weanling child, with mother in her common clothes, helping me along, yet fearing, except by stealth, to look at me. "I have killed him," was all I said, "even as he killed Lorna. Now let me see my wife, mother. She belongs to me none the less, though dead." "You cannot see her now, dear John," said Ruth Huckaback, coming forward, since no one else had the courage. "Annie is with her now, John." "What has that to do with it? Let me see my dead one, and pray myself to die." All the women fell away, and whispered, and looked at me, with side glances, and some sovereign, for my face was hard as flint. Ruth alone stood by me, and dropped her eyes and trembled. Then one little hand of hers stole into my great shaking palm, and the other was laid on my tattered coat. Yet with her clothes she shunned my blood, while she whispered gently, "John, she is not your dead one. She may even be your living one yet. your wife, your home, and your happiness. But you must not see her now. Is there any chance for her? For me? For me? I mean, God in heaven knows, dear John. But the sight of you, and in this sad plight, would be certain death to her. Now come first, and be healed yourself." I obeyed her like a child, whispering only as I went, for none but myself knew of her goodness. "Almighty God will bless you, darling, for the good you are doing now. Tenfold, and 1,000-fold," I prayed, and I believed it, when I came to know the truth. If it had not been for this little maid, Lorna must have died at once, as in my arms she lay for dead, from the dastard and murderous cruelty. But the moment I left her, Ruth came forward, and took the command of every one, in right of her firmness and readiness. She made them bear her home at once upon the door of the pulpit, with the cushion under the drooping head. With her own little hand she cut off, as tenderly as a pear is peeled, the bridal dress, so steeped and stained, and then with her dainty transparent fingers, no larger than a pencil, she probed the vile wound in the side, and fetched the reeking bullet forth, and then with the coldest water staunched the flowing of the life-blood. All this while my darling lay insensible, and as white as death, and needing nothing but her maiden shroud. But Ruth still sponged the poor side and forehead, and watched the long eyelashes flat upon the marble cheek, and laid her pure face on the faint heart, and bade them fetch her Spanish wine. Then she parted the pearly teeth, feebly clenched on the hovering breath, and poured in wine from a christening spoon, and raised the graceful neck and breast, and stroked the delicate throat, and waited, and then poured in a little more. Annie all the while looked on with horror and amazement, counting herself no second-rate nurse, and this as against all theory. But the quiet lifting of Ruth's hand, and one glance from her dark bright eyes, told Annie just to stand away, and not intercept the air so. And at the very moment when all the rest had settled that Ruth was a simple idiot, but could not harm the dead much, a little flutter in the throat, followed by a short, low sigh, made them pause, and look, and hope. For hours, however, and days, she lay at the very verge of death, kept alive by nothing but the care, the skill, the tenderness, and the perpetual watchfulness of Ruth. Luckily Annie was not there very often, so as to meddle; for kind and clever as she was, she must have done more harm than good. But my broken rib, which was set by a doctor, who chanced to be at the wedding, was allotted to Annie's care, and great inflammation ensuing, it was quite enough to content her. This doctor had pronounced poor Lorna dead, wherefore Ruth refused most firmly to have aught to do with him. She took the whole case on herself, and with God's help she bore it through. Now whether it were the light and brightness of my Lorna's nature, or the freedom from anxiety, for she knew not of my hurt, or, as some people said, her birthright among wounds and violence, of her manner of not drinking beer, I leave that doctor to determine who pronounced her dead. But anyhow, one thing is certain, sure as stars of hope above us, Lorna recovered, long ere I did. For the grief was on me still of having lost my love and lover at the moment she was mine. With the power of fate upon me, and the black cauldron of the wizard's death boiling in my heated brain, I had no faith in the tales they told. I believed that Lorna was in the churchyard, while these rogues were lying to me. For the strength of blood like mine, and power of heart behind it, a broken bone must burn itself. Mine went hard with fires of pain,